What is up, everybody? This is Lyle No Hippie Trucking and Transportation. For those of you guys catching this on the replay, I'm just gonna chill out here a second, see if somebody comes in, and then we'll kind of get started about 10 of my pet peeves in the trucking industry. So I may repeat this again when some people get in here, if some people get in here. I know the sun is up. People definitely gonna be out driving. I just got done driving. Looks like it might be one of those days. Got at least one person up in here. What is up? What's up, Slowpoke TNT? You know, David Boyd, it's just 10 things I thought of. I was driving today, and just a few things came to my head. One thing I wish is that this winter would get out of here. I woke up in, those of you guys that are familiar, there's a shortcut in West Virginia, US 19, and I stayed at, there's 2 truck stops on that route, and that's, well, at least 2, and I stopped at the Go Mart, but there's a bigger place, you know, about 4 miles away. But I woke up this morning, snow like a motherfucker. So I am just tired of this winter, and there's nothing worse. I mean, there's obviously some things worse than West Virginia at night, or while it's dark, because I started driving about 4 o'clock. So dark, snow in West Virginia mountains. So I'm out here in, I forget the name of the city, but I am at a King Travel Plaza, exit 6 in Georgia, right before you hit the Florida border. Those of you guys that are familiar with I-95, there's a Petro that's in the area. I'm about 3 miles away from the Petro. The Petro's exit 3, I'm at exit 6. And there's like 4 trucks here. What's up, Nick? I'm just out here like Gloria Gaynor, just trying to survive. Shoot, sometimes I just think everything is conspiring against me, whether it's weather, you know, whatever. But yeah, we're gonna get into just some of these pet peeves. I could have kept going, but I figured, you know what, 10 is a good number. Let me just start with 10. So JP, what's up? I am delivering tomorrow in Jacksonville. So I wanted to get a little bit closer. I'm about 60 miles away. JP, I stay on the road as long as I have to stay on the road. If I was just had me and my one truck, I would be at home a whole lot more than I am now. But things just aren't lining up to be that way. So yeah, so right now I just do what I gotta do. Normally I used to try to stay out 5 weeks, something like that. And then, you know, if the truck is paid off. So if I was by myself and the truck was paid off, you know, that would have changed as well if I wasn't offsetting these other trucks. But that's kind of what's going on right now. Oh, we're gonna get to that one, Nick. We're gonna get to that one. And listen, I go so far as to, I don't even like motherfuckers leaving marker light. I mean, to me the excuse is so stupid. I just leave on my, running lights or whatever it is, or whatever that you want to call them, so nobody hits me. That ain't stopping nobody from hitting you, and all you're doing is blinding everybody around you, even if it's dim. So let's get into this. So, like I said, this is only a few things on my pet peeve list, but I think this first one is the one that really made me think about it. That happened this morning is when you show the courtesy to let somebody merge so you get into the left lane, and then that motherfucker strands you out there. He's not passing you, he's not backing up, he's just leaving you out in the left lane with your dick in your hand. That right there is a pet peeve. If somebody is going to be courteous enough to let you over, at least slow down, then you can come back around if you're faster, or speed up, do whatever, but just don't pace somebody. That right there, that pisses me off right there. This one I don't think a lot of people are going to really agree with, but to me it just makes sense. You ever been coming up to a rest area, a truck stop, where the trucks are going to be entering the highway, and you got two trucks coming in at the same time? If I'm ever in that case, there's a truck in front of me, I'm going to slow down a little bit on that ramp, let that truck get out there. I'm not going to be having two trucks come out merging at the same time. That right there is just a pain in the ass for everybody around. So I might, that's not a big one, but again, you're going to have two slow ass trucks getting out there at exactly the same time. Preferably, if I know somebody's going to leave and I'm not already committed, I'll just wait until that truck gets out there. So that's a mild one. Just, again, something else I saw this morning, and I was mad this morning. That snow in West Virginia started really pissing me off. Nick, and you are right, the real. Number 3, this is Nick. Leaving lights on at a dock or truck stop. And I'm talking about your regular lights on, like your headlights on, or even just the little marker light things on. That, especially your like full headlights on, that right there is a pet peeve, and it really pisses me off. Brock, I got 4 right now. This one I'm in is my first truck, and it's the one that is paid off right now. 2021 Peterbilt. But yeah, I don't know why people leave their lights on. Like I said, even just the marker lights and all that, if your headlights are on at all and somebody's trying to back in, sometimes that shit is just a little, it's really no sense to I don't even know why people leave them on, other than to drain batteries or do whatever. It to me, it makes no sense. I know I'm probably in the minority on that one, but as far as full headlights on, I know that I'm not in the minority on that one. All right, so number 4. I have never ever parked at a truck stop in a spot that was not a legal spot, ever. And I haven't been driving that long, just 5 years. But making spots at a truck stop that make it difficult for people to get out. Probably about a month ago, I'm at a truck stop, and if I get there early enough, I'm going to try to park in a place where I know I can't get blocked in. But it wasn't that kind of a day. So I parked. It was right next to the shop, and people started stacking up in front of that shop. So I couldn't make it out of that spot. And what did I have to do? Wake a grown-ass man up and have him looking at me like I did something wrong. I cannot stand that shit. And I'm so against that. I will split my clock to park at a better time if I have to, if I got time or whatever. But there's never been a case where I haven't been able to find a legal spot somewhere. And the problem is, and it's part of the reason I can't stand these name brand truck stops everybody goes to, is that these off-brand places like where I'm at right now, Granted, it is only, what time is it? 5:30 p.m. But there's like 1, 2, 3, 4 trucks here. I guarantee you the Petro down the way is at least half full right now. Even though that Petro down the street never really gets full. But making spots, making it difficult for me to get out. Hate that shit. That's number 4. And off-brand is the way to go. This one here, this is just fucking nasty. And this is brushing your teeth and blowing snot and all that shit in the sinks. First of all, I don't know why anybody would want to be in there brushing their teeth while there's some other dude shitting about 2 feet behind them. But, do what you must. But before I come out, I bring about 30 or 40 toothbrushes, buy them at the dollar store. They're like 4 packs or something like that. And I just sit in the truck, brush my teeth. When I'm done, throw it out. Or if I happen to be going to a shower, I might rinse one out or whatever in there. But I'm not going to be brushing my teeth in there. And I'm definitely not going to be blowing my nose. There's these guys in there doing them little farmer blow things. Oh, that is so fucking... That's nasty in general. But then when you're doing it in a sink, that is just horrible. So that right there. And don't even get me started on some of this other stuff that goes on in them stalls with some of these people in there out there trying to make their homemade bidet and shit. So yeah, that's one. And I mean, how much fuel do you need to get free showers? I mean, it's not that much shit. Let's see. Number 6. This one I'm real serious about. Is talking down to like fast food workers or people that work at truck stops or even shippers and receivers. Now, sometimes shippers and receivers can get a little out of line. So, if that happens, then I'm not so much worried about it. I've had to bite my tongue a bunch of times, but how many times you hear people say, just really talk down to people and ask them if they want to make more money, they'll get a real job or whatever like that. And let me tell you, coming from outside of the trucking industry 5 years ago, there's plenty of people that are talking shit about truckers. So, I think sometimes truck drivers tend to be a little bit too full of themselves and try to talk down to people. I can't stand that shit. I have never parked on a ramp, never been in that position. The closest I've got to a ramp was I was on the Pennsylvania Turnpike, and they had one of those cutoffs that said park behind this line. And I had to park at one of those like in the middle of the night one time. But I don't do the ramps or anything like that. Oh yeah, and back to this other thing about the fast food workers, when they were talking about when they were going to be paying fast food workers more money and all that kind of stuff, they're like, well, if you do that, that's why they have all these kiosks and stuff like that. You know what? That's why they're trying to find automated trucks as well. So I hate when people talk down to other people, and this is a good example that I see quite often. As a matter of fact, I was at the Petro in I forget where I was at. I think it was Waterloo, Iowa. Nick, are you behind me reading my sheet? But I was at the Petro in Waterloo, and I was trying to burn up my meal credits and stuff like that. I had about 2 that were going to expire, so I was in there, and somebody was kind of talking to this lady that was working back there, like trying to comfort her in a way, because I guess somebody who was in there before her was talking down to her or whatever it was. And I caught kind of some of that conversation, and she's just like, I'm a human too. So that's probably why that came on my list. All right, Nick, here you go again. Making our job seem more important than it is. Kissing our own asses. I don't know how many times I gotta see some shit on Facebook or people talking about it. I can't be home, or I can't go home on Christmas. I'm delivering your shit. Or, without us, the world wouldn't move. Well, somebody has to make the shit that we haul. I mean, it's like a whole thing. It's not just truckers are out here doing shit on their own. Like, they're out there in Santa Claus's workshop building the shit and then shipping it. So, yeah, that whole hero thing. Like, if somebody else wants to call you a hero, that's one thing. So when the whole COVID thing was going down and everybody, was getting all sympathetic to truck drivers, then I'll give you that. But don't be like, that's like somebody in the military calling themselves a hero. Just some bullshit, you know what I mean? So this next one, holding up the fuel island. And that's not saying taking a 30 at a fuel island. That means holding up a fuel island. And there's a difference. There was, like, apparently, and I'm not really on them Facebook groups, but somebody had said something about a post on Facebook when Tyree Singleton, I hate it when you pass slow trucks, and then I think, man, if I didn't put that on here, yeah, I don't think I got it on here, but yeah, that's true. So, what was I talking about? Yeah, holding up a fuel island. So somebody had said they caught somebody taking a shower in the fuel island, and it was like in the middle of the night. I will tell you this right now. The Petro in Amarillo, Texas, 12 fuel islands. I took a shower in the fuel island at that Petro. And that, with 12 fuel islands, in the middle of the night, there's no way that got in anybody's way. Now, I'm not saying if I'm going to take a 30 in the middle of the night, asking somebody to take somebody's spot that needs to stop for the night, taking their spot so you could park. If I was a driver coming in, parking for the night, I would hope that somebody wouldn't just be taking up a spot for a 30-minute break. So, but like I said, it's not like I haven't tried to take a 30 or whatever in a fuel island. But see, here's the difference. Okay, if I'm gonna take a 30 in a fuel island, and let's say it's a semi-busy fuel island, I might, wait a couple minutes to get my little app thing going, burn a couple minutes there. Then I'll go out to the machine and punch that in. And then I might start fueling and put it like on slow, so it fuels up slow. And then, maybe wait a little bit, after that, and then do my diff and, just slow everything down. And, so at least looks like I'm doing something. What irritates me, and then pull up. But what irritates me is when somebody's knows I'm trying to get out of there. They're not trying to fake nothing or anything. They're basically looking at me like I'm a bitch. You know what I mean? Like, he ain't gonna say nothing back there. So, let's see. Yeah, and if I am gonna take a shower, my shower is gonna be pretty fast. I don't know if one of my trainees comes in here, but I'm in and out like a scout on a new route. Pissing in front of drive tires during the day, yeah, that's another one. See, this list I could have gone on and on this list, but I just wanted to come up with 10. So that was number 8. Number 9, man, and this would be company specific. not necessarily truck driver to truck driver, although I could see how it might be. And I have seen somebody do this at a receiver or shipper one time. But I'm going to call them tattletales. Snitches might be a little too strong, but, you know, at Prime, they were like, you have to have your lock on your trailer empty or full. And you got people like actually out there like telling on people about this shit that doesn't affect them at all. Now, whether it's right, wrong, whatever, if you aren't out there endangering me or the public or something like that, I don't feel like it's my place to be telling on some of this just stupid stuff. And it's not just, I mean, there's plenty of things that people could be snitching about, but, you know, a lot of times those, I don't know what they get out of that shit. You know, even if something as stupid as a lock on a trailer, telling to the point where you're gonna tell somebody about that shit, I don't get it. And then my last one is just some of this little racist shit that you see out here. You know, and for the most part, I mean, it does kind of trickle down to black people, but I think that's kind of people are tired of talking shit about black people. It's like not in vogue as much as it used to be. So now they're starting on the, you know, whether it be Indian or Muslim people. By the way, as my man Tim Travels would say, by the way, can you imagine if people had some of the murals on the side of the truck that some of these Indian dudes be having? Like people out there with machine guns and, you know, out there with like swords and shit. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, they definitely aren't afraid to get a little creative with some of the stuff they put on the side of their truck. But yeah, just some of that stuff, you know. I don't think there's really any illegal people driving trucks, but yeah, it's just some of that stuff. And even if they are, you know, nobody's out there saying well, you know what? I don't know. To me, just some of the racism is just a little casual. Like I said, it's not as much aimed so much at black people anymore as it maybe used to. But listen, once you start talking that racist shit to Mexicans and Indians, my ears start perking up, because I know black people aren't too far down that list. You know what I mean? So, Buffalo, Greg McKinney. I just left Buffalo, or that Buffalo area. I was up in Saratoga Springs or some shit like that. I got out of there right before the snow started hitting, just to go sit my ass up in West Virginia and get hit by a bunch of snow this morning. Oh, and Terry, I was going to put one of yours on there, but I wanted to narrow it down to 10. People out there with them dirty-ass American flags hanging from the back of their trailers. That shit is not only... Well, if they were past military, they have no excuse, but that is downright disgraceful if you want to be that kind of a person. Like, if you think you're showing your patriotism by having a dirty-ass flag hanging from the back of your trailer, then I don't know. So anyway, Tyree, Pet Peeves, stop holding up the dock door. I was going to put that one on there too. Some places aren't as bad as others, but, you know, one of the things that I'd like that, you know, I know freight is down a little bit, but if you remember back when COVID was around, these shippers and receivers were like busy as shit. And that used to happen a lot more back then. Everything was a little congested, and there's that one person sitting in the dock, you know, for whatever reason. So yeah, that is a pet peeve as well. Uh, yeah, I can imagine this industry kind of turning somebody into a complainer. CDLs, that right there. That could be another one too. That just to me just sounds stupid every time I hear somebody say it. CDLs. I even joke around about that every now and then. I'm like, yeah, I got my CDLs back in 2019. Yeah, they definitely get on the Arabs and Indians. And as a matter of fact, I think this truck stop I'm at now is Indian owned. But it's funny, they got a Mexican restaurant in there, and they got a Dickey's barbecue in there. So when I went to order my Mexican food, because I ordered some tacos, I'm looking at them kind of skeptical. But they got down in there on that, so. Well, yeah, obviously there's reasons not to get out of your dock door, but there are times when, as a matter of fact, it just happened yesterday when I was picking up in Batavia, New York. There's a guy sitting in a dock, and a driver comes. He's blocking up about 6 trucks because he's trying to wait for this guy to pull out. And he wasn't waiting for no bills, because this place was, as soon as you get a green light, pull out, get the seal out of the back of your trailer, drive to the guard shack. They'll have all your paperwork and everything. But this guy's in the dock, and it was probably for a good 7 minutes before the guy went up there and told him he had to get out of there. And the worst thing about it was there was all kinds of space once you got out of the dock. He could have just slow rolled out. He could have literally probably taken a 2-hour break if he had just pulled out of the dock, circled around, and parked in front of the docks, because there was all kinds of room in front of the docks. This place. I don't know about the rapper, but definitely, could you see somebody up there that wasn't Indian or whatever, with the picture on the side of their truck, like with the guns or something like that, or well, anybody that has their CDLs is a little bit ahead of me. Let's see. Craig McKinney, that is definitely true as far as having a load that you're supposed to pick up and they tell you it's not till tomorrow. As a matter of fact, I had a driver that had a load that was supposed to pick up. This particular shipper is usually good as far as detention and everything. I get a message, hey, I'm supposed to have detention on this load. I'm like, I didn't see it. And I inquire about it, and they basically said that I'm going to try to phrase it as good as I can, but essentially he was on time for his pickup in regards to what was in our system, but it was a load that got rescheduled, and because of that, it didn't qualify for detention. So he got a little pissed off about that, and I'm just like, listen, I'm pissed off too, and I'm the one that hasn't got paid shit. Well, actually, I have maybe the last couple times, but I've been digging out of a fucking hole, so I wanted it more than anybody. But you can't get mad about. That's one thing that I'm glad that age has taught me. Is I used to be super high strung. I'd be the first one to cuss a motherfucker out or get all upset about stuff, and just that I might even have to say that has to be my best quality as far as being a truck driver, is not letting this little shit bother me, even if it's costing me money or whatever. There's been one time that I was like super full tilt. Hold on a sec. Sorry about that. Only one time I've been super full tilt, and that was back when I had my first truck, and I was at a shipper at this time, Forgot the name of the shipper. Actually, I remember the name of the shipper, but or receiver. These guys, what I think they thought was, okay, we're having to pay these trucks detention, so we're gonna let them sit because they're gonna be maxed out, and we're gonna start pulling in all these other trucks. They told me and this other guy, pulling this dock, and it was like snowing, all this stuff, pulling this dock, and so we're thinking we're about to get unloaded. They left us there overnight, shut all the gates and everything, and showed up the next morning like everything was cool. And I wouldn't have been that pissed off about it because there was like stores around, but I really didn't take advantage of that because you don't know if they're going to call you in, you know, normally I would think 20 minutes or 2 hours, but it ended up being like, I think I sat there like almost 18 hours. I did a live on that back in the day. I just wish truck drivers would turn off the lights anyway. I know Terry over at Tim Travels, he's one of those guys that likes to burn up his batteries for no fucking reason because he thinks having his lights on at night, his marker lights on or whatever at night is going to keep people from hitting them. Oh, here's a pet peeve. Let me see what Tyree said. Love it when a receiver is quick to unload but wants to do the inventory while you're in the door. Yeah, but you know what really, this shit's almost inhumane, is when somebody, let's say, because I've had it under a couple different situations, but one of the situations is I drove like 8 hours straight to get to this receiver. I get there, I'm thinking about to go to sleep, and what do these bastards say? When the light turns green, go get the paperwork from the door. That's some inhumane shit right there. Now I can't really get no good. Now at this point, because I'm not as worried about it, if it's that big of a deal, they can come out and wake me up. Now if they tell me if it turns green, you know, if I don't wake up or whatever, you got to come and get me. But that whole thing, that's some bullshit right there. And yeah, Nick, Terry's April Fool joke, man, people were out there believing that shit. I told him he should take that down. So anyway, those are some of my pet peeves and stuff like that. Let me take a look at my hours right quick.
You have 0 hours and 41 minutes of remaining drive time.
So I got 3 hours left on my 70. Now this is good. See, here's sometimes why having a full clock is bad. I just had a driver out and delivering Denver. Has basically almost a full 70. And what did they do? Deadhead his ass out to Idaho Falls. Alright, so let's see. 3 hours. And then I got 11 coming back at midnight. So you know what I see in my future, which I love doing? If it's this load, pick up one of them Shaw loads and just take it right up the street to Cartersville. Love that load. I don't know what Prime's going with. I'm not all that concerned about the ELD. What I'm concerned about is this. See, I grew up back in the day, and Terry grew up even before me. But there was that book that came out in 1984 where everybody's looking at you and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of what I don't like about this shit. And the funny thing about it, and I'm not even going to get too deep into this because I already know they're going to try to squash the rebellion before it begins. But all these people that were all, talking about the rights and all this stuff and everything. Some of them guys are falling right into line. Oh, phones. That's one thing. You know what's some real bullshit is when they're like, "Com data's gonna be down for 3 hours." Like, motherfucker, how is like, they need a high school person to come in at Com data and do whatever they got. I mean, you gonna just say act like it's gonna be down for 3 hours and that's not a big deal. All right, you know what? That's good, Nick. If that's the case, then maybe that'll be the case. But yeah, that deadhead was a little crazy. You know, I deadheaded to pick up a load from I forget where. I deadheaded like 900 miles, and with the deadhead and everything, it still was worth it. I'm never trying to step on my driver's dicks or anything like that, so, you know, if they get a load that works for them, that's great. Even if it doesn't work out for me, but one of my guys just got a load. Like I said, dead end from Denver to Idaho Falls, and then I think to Illinois. That load is going to cost me money right there. YNW Melon 9. I forget the name of the city, but I am on I-95 in Georgia. Exit 6, right before you get into Florida. There's a Petro right down the way, but I am at the King Travel Center. Not the Kings, the King Travel Center. There's like, actually there was 4 trucks here earlier. There's 3 trucks here now. So if you're ever in the area and need truck parking late at night, this place, I'm pretty sure, is always going to have spots. But that Petro down the way seems to have spots. But sometimes those spots, if you're super tired trying to park at that Petro and all that blindside backing, and they're kind of narrow, if I remember right, I might choose this over that. Tyrese says it's going to weed out a lot of people from Prime for sure. I agree with that, and here's what it is. Well, I kind of spoke about this in terms of when I was in the car business way back in the 90s. It wasn't cameras, obviously. It was just some other micromanaging shit. And they took one of the top dealerships in the country, micromanaged the shit out of it, was trying to tell people how to answer phones and do all this other kind of stuff, and having all this training. Mind you, we're like one of the top 7 Ford dealerships in the country. And they come in there trying to retrain people. What ended up happening was they ended up having a lot of people that did things their way, and ended up selling about 40% of the cars a year and a half later doing it their way. So I think that I think that it's a big enough deal to where what you might end up having is shorter. Like you might have people still come through. They're like, okay, I'm gonna get my training with Prime, and it's not gonna necessarily be a destination, you know, where you're just like, oh, okay, you know, I'm gonna just go there and be there. It may just be, I don't know. I guess we'll see. But I just can't see. You know, there have been several companies that have tried to do that, or that have done it. Gone with Walmart was one, and I don't know if they stopped doing it because they weren't getting the quality. Because you're not going to get somebody that's been driving, you know, this. I mean, you may get some, but that's going to weed out a lot of people that didn't come up in the company. It's going to weed out a lot of drivers that have a lot of experience from even thinking about it. And, you know, to some degree or another, you already have some people that are using Prime for the training then leaving. I don't know. I'm not going to get too much into that. I'll just start getting pissed off about it. And I'll tell you what pissed me off. This is a truck stop pet peeve. So this morning I go, probably one of the worst places to go to get fuel. Because I was going to try to take a 30-minute break there, but it got too full. But that Fort Mill, South Carolina, loves. So I go there, get some fuel. I'm like, okay, let me run in and get a coffee, all this stuff. And you know what? Let me get some fruit while I'm in here. Let's be good, you know? And I got some pineapple. Don't tell me that 3/4 of one of them cups of pineapples was just the fucking pineapple core. I wanted to drive back there and throw that shit and hit him upside the head with that shit. All right. How did I get so many subs? Shit, I don't have any subs. There's people up here that came in after me that are killing me, and there's people, man, there's people with 50,000, 60,000. I'm not even concerning myself with the subscriber count at all. What do I think about gays? I really don't think anything about them. One of my drivers happens to be of that persuasion. And as a matter of fact, when I was the manager in the mortgage business, I probably hired the first gay person at that company. Not that anybody was counting, but... What is my favorite American classic muscle car? My first car would probably be that. I had a 1969 Dodge Charger. As a matter of fact, I still know where that car is unless it's been sold recently. But I had that car, sold it before I went in the Marines, which was dumb. Sold it to my best friend brother, so we grew up next door to each other. He went off to the Army, kept the car in the garage, came back, rebuilt the engine, all that stuff. He started getting it almost to what do they call that shit, original, whatever. But he ended up going through some financial problems, ended up selling that car to the people that moved into the house that I grew up in, and that guy finally has it back to, from last I saw, original color, original rims, all that kind of stuff. And I'd say the last time I saw that car was probably 6 years ago, so who knows at this point. But it's in the same house that it was in when I had it. Toothless, ruthless Florida drivers in general, but I have grown to appreciate the absence of skills of drivers in the New England states. I think they may have overtaken Florida. I mean, these guys I was up there for like a few days, and these guys are pulling out, merging, going slow. Like, you're in a car, you could like get up to speed. They're merging slow, sitting there for about 10 seconds, and then driving off all fast. I just want to reach up and slap the shit out of them. Oh, I liked Chevelles as well. If it wasn't, or you know, any of the Dodges back in those days. So whether it be, you know, my car was the Charger, like the Dukes of Hazzard car for some of you guys that are a little younger. But any of the Super Bs, Darts, any of those back in that day. And then I like the Chevelle and the GTO Judge, or the regular GTOs. All those cars back then, almost. Schmarkus Dickinson Logistics, what is up? Yeah, he's out there trying to hit it real big. He's out there buying like little drop yards and shit to have his people park at. He's talking about growing a fleet. I'm like, hey, when my people start going, they might just have to just start going. I don't know if I got the stomach in me to keep, you know, going any further. John Hogren, exit 6 in Georgia is Kingsland. Just like, okay, so I'm at that exit, Kingsland. That sounds right. And I'm at the one that's on the left-hand side when you come off of the ramp. Yeah, my Charger was a 69 Charger 440. And I'm surprised I didn't get killed in that thing. First of all, I lived in Colorado. Second of all, I ended up blowing the engine on it at one point. And the reason I blew the engine was the guy that had it before me had a shift kit in it. So it wouldn't shift until it was like super high RPMs. So you'd be driving and then you'd hear the tires chirp because it's, you know, grabbing some traction. So you'd be going like 30 miles an hour. It would shift and the tires would like chirp. And I was driving that shit in the winter like it was just another day. Aiden, what's up? I'm butchering some of these names. Amara Stobel, Billy Kettner, Natalie in SoCal with the 69. Camaro. I really didn't like the Camaros all that much. And I definitely didn't like the Corvettes. I did like the Mach 1s. I still remember being in shit, I had to be like in kindergarten. And one of my kindergarten teacher's boyfriends, two things I remember about him. He had a Mach 1 and he had a digital watch. Like the old school digital watches, like with the red numbers on it. And I just remember being like, whoa! And that was actually before Pong and all that shit came out, if I remember. This had to be like 74, 73. 40 near Gallup. Out there where my favorite little cutoff is. Actually, I don't go that route anymore. Up through Moab and all that. I hit it from Albuquerque now. You know, the Firebirds, I think it might be like a 77. I don't remember. I didn't hate Firebirds, but I didn't really like them the same way. So that's about it. In case GM, I think GMs back in the 70s were great. Back in the 80s and 90s, GMs had that interior that looked like they were making it out of Legos or something like that. And the seats always, you know, every time somebody would trade in a Chevy or a GM, the seats would be sagging in the motherfuckers. Yep, so my plan is to wake up tomorrow about 4:45, maybe 5. Drive down to, there's a TA down off of I-10, right by this Walmart DC. So I'll plan on driving down there in time to park, get a 10-hour break, and then I'll deliver at 6 p.m. tomorrow there. I'm assuming I might have a claim on this load already. When I went and picked it up, what I'm hauling is these big ass, like, I just remember them from the military, but they have these big old bladders of like milk, and you put them like in this machine, and then it'd have like this little hose that sticks down, and then you do it like that. That's what it looked like. And when I shut the doors, it looked like that shit was leaking already. So I don't know. Hopefully I don't have one. Mariah, let's see. Let's just do this. All right. You know, one of my guys across the street who was probably, you could have based that movie Gran Torino off of, Vietnam vet, a little unhinged. He had one, actually, he had a Ford. What's the Ford? What? I don't think it's the same car, but what was the Ford that was like the Chevelle, but it had like the truck back to it? He had one of those, and he had a license plate that said Budman on it. Like, you know, cops weren't pulling people over at the same pace for drinking and driving back then, but having a license plate talking about Budman might have been a reason too to Mark 7. I sold a few of those used back in my day. Now, wasn't it? I think it was El Camino. Yeah, El Camino. Yes, Marcus, I'm sure that you can understand this, but this again is one of them weeks where I had a good week, but that doesn't mean it's going to transfer over into my account, particularly. We'll see if next week could be a little bit better, if we can keep everybody on the road. Well, California is going to have a lot of older cars because a lot of cars aren't going to get rusted out. But anyway, I just wanted to come in here real quick. I figured this will be faster and a little bit easier than just doing... Do I have kids? Yeah, I got a daughter and a son, both like late 20s, stuff like that. Son is daughter just had my grandson, and my son is just about to get out of, you know, he's getting his apprenticeship being an electrician. So I hear you. Shit. What's up, Chops? And sometimes, you know, that's the thing that I don't think I could really appreciate as much. And sometimes I'm not even sure that, you know, sometimes it's like, hey, you know, I'm out here. I'm just gonna, you know, can I just stop and just relax for, you know, or whatever, go somewhere. Man, every time that truck stops for a day, that means it's gonna break even. More than that, it's gonna lose money. And that's, you know, I mean, that's a general rule of thumb, but no, you know. It's not a big deal till it's a big deal. Palm Springs, oh my God, that's bringing flashbacks. I remember when I was in the Marines going out to 29 Palms. There wasn't shit to do out there. And it was hot as shit. And one of my clubs I used to go to back in the days, I don't know how long you've been in that area. This is a little bit further away, but Riverside, California, Club Metro, back in the late 80s, early, or 80s and early 90s. Shit. That was my stomping grounds back in the days. You know, Chops said he's in TNT training right now, and his student and him have done 2 34-hour resets in a week. Terry over Tim Travels is going through something similar to that right now. And I don't know what the deal is with that and why they're still trying to push that. I don't know. If the freight's there, the freight's there. But I just think you have a lot of trainers that are going to have some kind of animosity towards their trainee when they're like looking at their shit and their trainees making more money than they are in some cases, I've heard. So that's when you're truly doing it to pay it forward. Yeah, as far as 29 Palms go, I really didn't get off the base all that much. Mainly, I was there in the field for about 3 weeks, so I really didn't even leave the dirt. But yeah, there just ain't shit to do out there. As a matter of fact, when people are first getting their first duty assignment, they're just hoping they don't get 29 pounds. Magnum's not going to train until they fix the pay. I can understand that. Terry says he doesn't blame the trainee, but he does let him know the reality of it. Shoot, if I could drive through Palm Springs, I could go get a haircut myself. Shoot. I mean, like I said, I've heard from about 3 trainers within the last week that are questioning the loads they've been getting, and then I talked to one that still doing well. And that's, if again, I've always looked at training like, you do it to pay it forward and the money is a byproduct of that, but that's a lot of fucking, like, to go through and not make any money. I mean, every time I get the thought of training again, I remember how tired I was every single time. You know what? They need to bring drive-in movie theaters back, Natalie. Those things used to be fun. As a matter of fact, I don't even remember why I got scared of this movie, but back in the day, there was a movie called Rosemary's Baby, and I don't remember how old I was at the time, but I was out with like a cousin of mine that was older, and I just remember that movie scaring the shit out of me. And that's my most vivid. I'm trying to remember where. I think I was in the Marines somewhere, where I stopped somewhere and they had like a real nice drive-in movie theater. I mean, it was like people would go there and like not even watch the movie. They had like an arcade. They had a bunch of shit out there. I don't remember where that was. Hey, Shamarcus, here's one thing I know. Sometimes you only hear what they want you to hear. I remember when I did that bullshit repower, right? 58 miles, paying like $85, going from the Manuka terminal down to Chicago. I hit like 3 or 4 tolls on the way down there, 3 or 4 tolls on the way back. And they were like, it wasn't my fleet manager, it was just somebody else. And he's like, we'll definitely be able to get you something good after this. This is gonna be a pretty busy freight weekend, so we should be able to find something for you. Which they did find me something that I thought was acceptable. But then right after that, I get a message from, another fleet manager or whoever was taking over for that day. Oh, freight's pretty tight this weekend. If you get a pre-plan, make sure you take this because it might be the only one. I'm just like, all right, so it is whatever you want it to be. You know what I'm saying? What's up, emo editor? I'm just out here chilling. Definitely used to be preppy back in the day. I've been fortunate where if I'm not pre-planned, usually it's not that much after that, but sometimes when luckily I barely got my pre-plan before I went the wrong direction yesterday or 2 days ago, whenever I picked up this load yesterday. Because I was definitely going to start heading the opposite direction, and I heard the load come in, and ended up just figuring out what direction I needed to go, and then kind of got out that direction within 50 miles yesterday, or the day before, whatever. Never been to Gitmo. They can't have no 100 trainees. That would be crazy. Drive-in movie theaters, that they still had them and people still went, but that was mainly people maybe about 5 years older than me that really did all that. So they'd be about 60 now, the people that really got into it, or older. All right, Kylie, appreciate that. Well, the repower, I never took it because it was gonna make me any money. I took it to see. Here's the thing, and this is the way I look at it. With 4 trucks on the road, I need to do favors for 4 other trucks, because I know a lot of times they may not do it, and they may need to, because I've had trucks need to get repowered, or I've had trucks ask for special shit. So I always feel like I need to be there covering the favors for all 4 trucks. So sometimes I just do it just so I could say, for that reason. Yeah, I don't know why people are waiting for trainers, but Twisted D accidentally called you on Easter the other day. How are those shoes I gave you? I like the color of those shoes. They just weren't what I was looking for. Hey, fill us in real quick before I get off here, Twisted. What's the problem with TNTs? Oh, I know there's some good looking sneakers. I'm about to get off here once Twisted D tells us what the situation is with these TNT students. No money for TNT trainers, so they don't want to do it. I can understand. You know, like I said, I've talked to people that are doing all right at it, talked to some people that aren't, and sometimes I just think that too much is being asked as far as that goes. Well, Twisted, here's the deal. And I just had one of my drivers ask about training. First of all, you got that issue, right? Then, let's say the truck goes down. You know, on my end, I'm having to pay a driver, pay a student, and pay a bill, and pay, you know, that shit. I remember one of my boys, he had a TNT student tear up his shit. So he tore up the trainer's truck, making a turn. Truck had to go in the shop. So trainee's still getting paid. Truck goes in the shop, not doing any loads. Then the trainee got upset that he didn't get his own hotel room. I'm like, how are you going to ask for your own hotel room when we're sharing this fucking truck together? Nice. I am at a King Travel Plaza somewhere in Georgia. Somebody said it. Exit 6, just north of Florida. So I'm in Georgia. About 3 exits north of the Petro on 95. United States, yeah. See, I never had a problem with students giving, or trainees giving me attitudes or anything like that. You know, I was fortunate as far as that goes, and you know, all of them were runners. Never had to worry about anybody because listen, I didn't do the whole we're gonna just run from 2 to 2, or you know, you ran that clock until your clocks were out, 14, 11, whatever. Then we'd switch. And then I'd do the same thing, 14, 11, whatever. And that's how we did it. And never had any issues with anybody as far as that went. And I think a lot of that was, there we go, King Travel Plaza, Kingsland, Georgia. Is because everybody could see I wasn't just telling them to do it. You know, none of my students can say, I outdrove Lyle, or he wasn't putting his in, or anything like that. Osmel Vasquez is Prime a good company for training? It really just depends on the trainer. Yeah, even if the student's on 34, you still have to pay them. And there was never a problem with that. You know, I never really looked at the training as far as the money situation as the reason why I would not do it again. The reason I don't like training is I was ending up everywhere I don't like. California, Oregon, Washington, New York, New Jersey, you know, Maine. Well, actually, I didn't spend much time in Maine. Connecticut. So I was always ending up in places I didn't want to end up at. And I was just tired. So, but when I was TNT training, you know, we were doing, things were well, and that still wasn't enough to keep me doing it. All right, I'm gonna let Chops answer this, and then I'm about to get off of here Chops, how's the pay changing? Hey, Terry, I wish you were out in Denver taking that deadhead out to Idaho that my driver is about to do right now. That's a team deadhead right there. What's up, Leah? Hey, Terry, as far as if I was to train, PSD would be all that I do, because I look at what I like most in PSD. I'd be able to run a 14-hour clock, so I'd be able to get where I'm getting a little bit sooner, be able to relax a little bit more on the back end, and wouldn't have to worry about sleeping or anything like that. All right, so you answered that question as far as the $2,500 for a trifecta. Shit, I might have to. You said that was PSD? Well, Lee, I'm gonna be here. I deliver tomorrow night at 6 p.m. I'm gonna inch a little bit closer tomorrow morning, about 6 o'clock. Pull up about 5 miles away from it's a Walmart load, but it's not a regular Walmart load. All right, I'm about to get off of here, but I just wanted to stop in right quick and do my pet peeves. If any of you guys didn't catch that came in earlier, go back to the beginning of the video. Just some pet peeves about trucking that just kind of, or truck drivers that irritate me a little bit. But that is it. I do appreciate you guys stopping by No Hippie Trucking and Transportation. As always, comment, subscribe, and I'm out.